Well, today I want to kick off our series of quarantine backyard chats, the story of Odysseus and the Sirens song. Well, that's right, folks. Welcome back to another video. During this very strange time with quarantines and the worldwide shutdown with coronavirus in March 2020, and probably into April, I wanted to just take some time and just give us some content, just have some discussions, read you some excerpts from books, and just have a time of connection and relationship. Now, you may be hearing it right now. I have two children that are screaming and crying, and they're neighbors and all sorts of stuff. So I'll do my best to keep it tight, concise. There might be a couple cuts in and out, but just give us some entertainment, some food for thought. And I wanted to read to you an excerpt from basically a shortened version of the Odyssey, or the story of Odysseus, from Greek literature. And this is retold. I'm going to butcher her name, and that's one of the things I'm not great at, is names. If you've been watching the channel, you know. But I'll have a link for you guys below. I think you can get them on Kindle. These are great stories. They're about 150 pages. They have a lot of the Greek classics. I've talked about them before in a few other videos. Good for kids, probably like middle school on up. But for me, being someone with children and short attention spans, or having to put down the book 50 times in the course of 30 minutes to put and quell and calm little children, this is a good read. So you get the idea of Greek literature and good stories, but you can do them real quick, you can do them real fast, and that type of thing. So there's the little guys hanging out behind. So I'm just going to read you the excerpt of the Sirens and the story of the Sirens, because I think many of us know the concept of what a siren is: someone that seduces, someone that doesn't have your best intentions in mind but hooks you. But until I read this, I didn't really understand the whole concept, and it has some great just moral questions to ask each one of us. So I'm just going to do my best to read this here for us. This starts on page 62, and it starts: "For a moment, Odysseus hesitated. Then he shook himself, and the fear flew off of him as the water flies off an otter's fur. I must set sail. I have a mind to hear the siren's song in the morning." "You reckless man, Odysseus," said the goddess bitterly. "Do you think because Athena gave you a body taut like a bow and a mind as quick as an arrow that you can listen to the sirens and live? For as long as ships have sailed, the sirens have sat on their rock and sung. A bare, bald rock it is, heaped up with bones of sailors. Each one of those sailors have heard the singing of the sirens and leaned on the rails to listen. First he has the thought, 'What a sweet sound.' And then he has the thought, 'I must hear more.' And then he has the thought, 'What a waste of my life not to have spent it here listening.' And then he has thought, 'I'll die if I leave this singing.' And then he has died, long and lingering, his ship floundering on the barren rock, and his body sprawled out at the feet of the sirens, starving in his ecstasy and parching in his rapture, and loathing himself for his foolishness. You think you and your Greeks are different, but mortal men are all the same when it comes to the sirens' singing." Odysseus held up his hands as if to surrender to her greater wisdom, but in his eyes she saw the gleam of mischief. "Oh, you self-willed, headstrong man, Odysseus, go to my beehives and take the wax from the combs. Knead it and slice it, and seal the ears of all your men. Then have them tie you to the mast with rope. And tell them when you beg to be released, to tie you tighter still, and still more rope. Now say goodbye, and let it never be said that by the gods or by mortal men that I did not help you all I could." Then Odysseus kissed her and laughed out loud and said, "When they sing my song on Ithaca, I'll have them call you the goddess of magic powers, whose hair hangs down in golden braids like the first rays of dawn, wise as the bees and as sweet as honey. I shall remember you, Circe, whenever my hives are overflowing." He boarded his brightly painted ship and stood at the prow, his cockerel on his arm, and 4 dozen wooden oars slicing white slits in the creamy sea. The sail hung down, hungry for the wind. Wearily, he kept watching for the island of the Sirens. There! Was that a birdsong or a human voice drifting toward him? Either way, a sweet sound to hear at sea. He kneaded the wax. The heat of the morning sun had made it soft. He stopped it up in the ears of his men, one by one. And all the while the music grew louder. Too quiet, too low. I must get closer, he thought, and stood with his hand to his ear on the dipping prow. It was Polides who roped him around and round and tied the rope end to end to the mast. "What are you doing?" said Odysseus irritably, mouthing the words to deaf Polides. "Only what you would have commanded me if you had not slipped your mind, my lord. I heard Circe's advice." Then the song came. "Come, my sisters, come and see how the world encircled sea and slow tide of purple time have brought at last the one sublime, fast vessel we have longed to see, the Odyssey." Circe lied. She said the island was barren and bare, but it's covered with flowers, orchids, and lilies. Then the song came again. "See how his head is crowned with curls. See how his sail, all unfurled, hangs empty out of pity. For though some call us pretty, loneliness tortures us, Odysseus." Everyone lied. They said the Sirens were harpies with bodies of vultures and heads of women, but they're lovely, lovelier than the orchids or the lilies, lovelier than Ithaca herself. How would my crabbed, aging wife look alongside them? Their shoulders so white, their eyes so imploring. Poor ladies, what manner of man would I be to spur them on? Polides, untie me! Ah, then the song continues. When the world pronounces your name, why did they not speak of the flames, of glory that rounds you like a wreath? The gods forbid that you should leave. What happiness remains unless you swim to us, Odysseus? Polides, can't you see? Circe's lied to us. Let me go this instant. I command you. But Polides shrugged his shoulders, and they were hunched against the oar. He could not hear, and if he looked up, his eyes did not linger on Odysseus' twisted mouth. Polides, you've better do as I say, or I'll kill you after this for defying me. Untie me. But Polides turned his head away so as not to look onto Odysseus' face on every backward pull of the oar. You other men, listen. The man who frees me can have Polides' rank. Any of you, look at me. Whoever frees me, you can have Ithaca. Take it. How can I rule Ithaca when I'm needed here? Don't you hear what they're singing? They've waited centuries just for me. Men, look up. Take the wax out of your ears. Cut me free. I beg you, look. The distance isn't so far. I could swim across. You go on if you must. Take the boat. I shan't need it. But cut me free and let me swim. Look, the distance is getting wider. For the love of all the gods, have pity on me, someone. What are you doing? Pieces of rock? Does it please you to see the hero of Troy reduced to tears? Don't you know what pity is? Then Polides leaped up from his thwart, and with his eyes turned away from Odysseus, he fetched another coil of rope, and round the man and mast it went, from ankle to throat, from throat to ankle. All the while Odysseus begging, pleading, sobbing, pulling, and grotesque, hideous faces, plunging from rage to craven tears, as the weather altered between lightning and drizzling rain. When he was done, Polides sat down on the heaving deck. Only one gap in the coils of rope allowed the king's right hand to reach and claw at him. Polides took the hand in his and held it. Though Odysseus' furious grip squeezed like a wine press, deftly he watched the silent mouth contort, and he watched the veins beat in his captain's temples, in time with the strokes and the plunging of the oars. At last, the grip relaxed. Odysseus' head fell forward on his chest, and large tears splashed down onto Polides' hair. Over the starboard quarter, The island of the Sirens dipped out of sight below the brimming horizon. Polides took the wax out of his ears, fetched a knife, and cut free Odysseus, whose body was ringed round with marks from the hemp rope. In a small and faltering voice he asked, "What did you see, Polides?" "3 hideous vultures with horny talons and heads of women. An acre of jagged rocks where nothing grew except white trees of bone that used to be good men. What did you see, my lord?" But the question was never answered, for a headwind brought a fine gray spume and the sound of a distant roaring. "Unstop the men's ears, Polides. Let the tillerman take the oar. I'll steer myself." "Why? What is it, my lord?" "If Circe and Tiridas, spoke the truth, we are about to see the greatest terrors of the undiscovered world." So guys, I just wanted to read that to you briefly. I really enjoy that little portion of the story. It's very emotional, and I encourage you to get the whole book. It's a very fast read, and you'll get some knowledge of ancient Greek. But I'll leave you with this last food for thought with this story. I think every single one of us has sirens in our life, things that other people see as terrible, life-threatening, destructive to our lives, but for whatever reason, we see them as beautiful, needed, desirable, and must-haves in our lives. And I would just challenge you through, particularly this season, with this quarantine and lots of people around the world, you're secluded, you're alone with your thoughts a lot. Just take a moment, maybe write it down, write it in your phone, take out a notepad. Maybe think through, what are some things that maybe are sirens to me? Maybe it's a way of thinking, maybe it's a habit that you have, an attitude, a perspective that it's comfortable, you like it, but it may not be the best. And through this season, try to change that. I always ask God to help me with those things. God, help me to not desire those sirens, those things that everyone else can tell in my life are destructive and are only pulling me down, but for whatever reason I continually go back to or find attractive. So that's my little nugget for you guys. Let me know what you think about this style of video. I can do some more for us throughout this quarantine time if you like. Yeah, love you guys. You're not alone. Appreciate you. Check out the other videos popping up. Subscribe if you're not a current subscriber. And always remember, stay equipped, stay prepared, and we'll see you out there.